Hi, this is Mary Jane from Hayes Sewing Machine Company, and as part of our creative video series, today I'm showing you how to make a very simple wall hanging from a panel. I know that often I am in a quilt store and see a very cute panel that I love. I pick it up, I bring it home, and that kind of ends the process. So I was sort of inspired to create a very...
Oh, that's a pretty one.
Isn't this a pretty one from the lake?
Yep.
To create a very simple wall hanging. So you could hang the panel up and you can even change it out for either seasons or holidays. Typically, panels are 23 or possibly 36 inches wide. And then they are the length of a regular piece of fabric, 44 inches. So the first thing that I do is I iron it. So I'm going to give this a quick press and get all the wrinkles out. Yeah, I like this one because we have a bunch of beachy ones. But this one kind of says mountains to me.
Yep.
And we're kayakers. It has canoes in it.
And I would be sitting in the chair on the pier watching you.
So after I have given it a quick press, I am going to cut off the selvage end. And my ruler is over here. I am going to match the ends up. Line it up. Cut it down. Very nice. And I'm going to do the other side.
I like the little check or plaid that goes around it. It's nice.
It.
It's very rustic.
Yes, it is, Pam. I'm going to get that again very well lined up. Give it a little trim. Okay. Now I'm going to take my backing fabric. My backing fabric can be scrap. I mean, no one's going to see it, so it can just be backing fabric. I cut a piece that is as wide as the panel. And again, I am going to give it a quick press, and I'm going to cut off the selvages. Get that middle crease out. Bring it over to the table and cut off the loose ends. So now I have a piece of fabric that is the same size. My backing fabric should be the same size as my panel. Now, you can see that it's squeaking out a little bit. I may go back and trim that up. I may just include it, but I will even that up as we get further along. I also need a piece of fabric that is 6 inches wide by width of fabric, 44 inches. I'm going to use this as the rod pocket. So my panel is roughly 23 inches wide. I am going to cut this piece 25, and I'll tell you why. But first, let me cut it 25. So I am going to, again, cut the selvage off. And then I am going to cut this at about 25.
So about 2 inches longer than your panel?
Right.
Got it.
Because I'm going to bring it over to the iron. I'm going to fold it about a 1/2 inch, press. I'm going to fold it about a 1/2 inch and press. I'm going to do that on both sides. So I purposely want this a little shorter in the back. So after I have turned down the ends and ironed them, I am going to fold it in half. And I'm going to use my iron to make a nice press. And then we have a nice clean entrance on either side for, typically people use a rod or a dowel to go through. I'm going to bring it over to my backing fabric. And this is where I kind of use an old trick. I'm holding it this way. I'm going to fold it. And I'm going to give it a nice little finger press there. And that is going to tell me where the center of my backing is. So I can see my little finger press. I'm going to take this. I'm going to do the same. Give it a nice little finger press. Now I can match up my centers. I am putting raw edges together. I am going to clip it and
Could you
hold it.
move the front for me? Thank you.
I am going to clip it and hold it. So right sides together, raw edges together. That is going to be ready to sew. Now, to give the panel some body, so that it's when it's hanging on the wall, it doesn't look so saggy-baggy, I have cut a piece of fusible fleece. Fusible on one side, fleecy on the other side. I often make this a little shorter, like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch shorter than my panel. That way when I sew it all together, my seams aren't as bulky. So I am going to now put the fusible fleece onto the panel. And I'm going to do that with the iron. Now this is a process that is not fast. You have to really take your time when you're ironing this. So I get everybody all situated. I like how it's going. I take my iron. And I am going to take my time and iron on this fusible fleece. And I'm probably still going too fast.
Well, I understand we're under a time constraint.
I do have a very nice hot iron on the highest setting. And the reason why I press the panel before I do the fusible fleece is because if you do have a wrinkle in your fabric and then you apply the fusible fleece, it is possible to keep that wrinkle in there.
Yeah,
And I
it
don't
could be.
want that.
Yeah, it could be added texture.
Yeah, ask me how I know.
Yes.
So you'll notice that I have a little bit of fusible fleece here at the bottom. I'm just going to trim it up. Not a big deal. Take that right off. Now we can get to stitching. The first stitch that I'm going to do is I'm going to baste this top piece. So raw edges together. I'm going to lengthen my stitch out quite a bit. I'm going to go to like a 4. This is just holding it in place, and I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to remove my clip. Oh, I am tricky enough going to thread it. And that will help things considerably. Boy, this machine's smart. Right. Let's try this again.
Boy, you once thread in the needle.
I know.
How picky.
I did have thread in the bobbin though. Wasn't that enough? Okay. Take 2. 1/8 of an inch. All right, I'm with you now. My stitch is long. This is just holding it in place. I am sewing the rod pocket to the back of the panel. I'm using a similar color thread.
So you're deliberately making the rod pocket shorter than the back.
Yeah, a little bit. That gives it room to...
Not get caught in the seam.
Now that I have it in place, I am going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to do a real stitch.
So you don't have to hand stitch anything.
Oh yeah, no. That wasn't
You said that
part of the
awful
plan.
awful fast.
So now that I have that sewn on, I am going to come over here and I am going to make a sandwich. I have the panel with the fusible fleece. I have the backing. They are right sides together, and I am going to go around to all the sides and I'm going to clip them. I start at the top.
Where's your preference for leaving the opening?
Bottom.
Bottom. Okay.
Don't know why,
Well, probably less obvious.
but yes, I normally do my opening at the bottom. And I also don't mind if my backing is a little smaller, because I don't mind pulling the front of the panel around a little bit.
Yeah, it makes it prettier on the edge.
Yeah, it makes it a little nicer on the edge. And kind of like when you're basting a quilt, you're just going around, you're smoothing it, you're settling the fabric where it needs to go. And doing some clips along the way. If your machine does not handle bulk well, you may want to put a walking foot on. I don't think it's going to be a problem with this machine, so I am not going to change to a walking foot. And when I have to remember to start and stop in an area, I put 2 clips.
Aren't you clever?
If I'm using pins, I make an X with the pins.
Oh, I learned something new. There you go.
But that helps me remember.
Sure. And then you're going to sew with the fusible fleece to the top side, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So my other favorite little trick is I start here. I could have a 1/4 inch foot on, but I think I'm good with this. I start here. I do a couple stitches up, I should say. I pivot. This helps fold my end in. And then I'm going to sew all the way around. Get to my end, I pivot. Sometimes I see videos where people can sew with these clips on and they take them off while they're sewing. I am not.
I've never been that talented.
I know.
And sometimes you can also lengthen out your stitch if you feel it's going too slow.
Yeah, especially for this because I am going to top stitch it.
Aren't you glad we don't do a king-size quilt this way?
Yes, right, exactly.
This would be a nice, quick gift for somebody that's having a baby. For all the
Yes.
the baby panels we have.
Yes, exactly. I know people are so quick to want to make a quilt for a baby, which I get, but there's also a lot of cute nursery decorations that you can do. And then when I get to the end, I pivot and I sew off. And then the first thing that I do is I go around and I make sure that I have caught the top and the bottom in all of the spots.
Wimp.
Well,
That way we don't have to hand sew anything, right?
right, exactly. And I actually do see a couple spots that I wish I would have gotten a little closer on. So I am going to go back and do a couple fixes.
Yep.
Now I am not going
It's
to
easier to do it now.
Yep, I am not pulling it out. Let me just make sure I have all this done. And it's okay to go over these stitches. You're not going to see it once you flip it inside out.
Nope, not at all.
Keep
See,
checking.
it's easier to check it now.
Yep.
Just remember not to close the opening.
Yes. Yes, exactly. All right. I'm going to do one other spot right here. Okay. Now I'm good. I like to take my scissors and do a little clipping on the corners.
So clip diagonally. Yep.
Yep, right on the corners. I clip diagonally. When I pull it through, it just lessens the bulk. And now I am going to pull it through.
This is a lot easier to pull through than that Noah's Ark one that you got.
That is correct. Okay, I'm going to take it over to the iron. And I'm going to give it a nice press all around. Yeah, that Noah's Ark one was
Teeny tiny.
teeny tiny. So for the sake of time, so because I took a couple stitches in at that bottom, when I flip it inside out, it's going to have a really nice turn to it, so I can press it. It actually folds the fabric. And as the last step, I am going to do a nice top stitch. And I might make my stitch a little longer here too. I might take it to a 2.75. I don't think I'd go all the way to a 3, but I'd go a little longer. I'm going to top stitch it all around, and then voila, we have a nice panel project with a rod pocket.